Hey everyone, Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. Matt Hoh joins us now. Matt, as always, no matter what we're talking about, it's a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Do we understand what was agreed to between the United States and Iran? Do we have any grasp of it? Comments from Vice President Vance and from the president, and comments from the Iranians, and they seem to be all over the place.
Thanks for having me back on, Judge. Yeah, exactly. We've seen a lot of posturing. We've seen a lot of commentary. We've seen a lot of leaks. We've seen both sides putting forward their interpretations of what is going to be, trying to prepare their domestic audience, trying to ensure their constituencies that this is a win. I think you've seen coming out of the Iranian media, possibly efforts by Iranian hardliners to set expectations up so high that when the MOU is actually released, there'll be disappointment in it. At the same time, too, on the American side, you see the opposite. You see a downplaying of it. Oh, they're not going to get any money. They're going to give us all their nuclear material. So basically trying to message this over this week. Amouage Media reports they have seen the first paragraph of the MOU. And this is the only media outlet that I have seen.
What media outlet is this?
Amouage Media. They're based out of London, but they do a really great job covering the Middle East. And so Amouage reports that they have seen the first paragraph. And the first paragraph does contain the provisions about a ceasefire, which clearly includes Lebanon. So I've followed Amouage for a couple of years now. Their work is usually excellent. I have no reason to believe that they are citing something that they haven't verified. So it seems as if that the ceasefire does include Lebanon, that Lebanon is included in the overall deal, in the overall MOU. The only other thing, Judge, I have seen today regarding what is reporting out of Israel, out of I-24, one of their correspondents reporting that Israel was not shown the MOU, that the Israelis have not seen this yet, which I think says a heck of a lot. But overall, I think we can, if we Venn diagram this, right, take in all that we hear from all the different sides, we can understand that this essentially is an extension of the ceasefire. That is an American acceptance of the reality of the Iranian control of the Straits of Hormuz.
Right.
Right. I think that's essentially what we're looking at here. And that's all that matters. And that gets the United States, that gets the region, that gets the world through the next few months, because I think the biggest thing driving all this in terms of the American acceptance of reality here was this economic cliff that the world was driving up to, that seems to be sometime in July, when worldwide oil inventories have been incredibly
so Trump blinked and accepted an arrangement that was offered by the Iranians 2 months ago in April.
Right, correct. And I think if there actually is, Judge, a final deal, and it won't be a deal like the JCPOA, it certainly won't be a treaty that goes to the Congress to ratify. It will essentially just be this, formal memorandum of understanding, which, I'm not sure how rule of law works anymore. But this will be the vehicle, right? I mean, this will be the vehicle through which this, quote, treaty.
You are not the only person that doesn't know how rule of law works. Right. What is the name of that outlet again? Can you spell it?
Amouage, AMWAJ. Amouage Media, and they are a terrific resource.
Okay. Yeah. Now, could Netanyahu unwittingly have brought about the agreement by his last-minute weekend vicious attacks in Lebanon, to which the Iranians said, hey, Donald, we're about to respond with overwhelming force unless you do something. And the next thing we knew, the White House accepted the Iranian agreement. Does that series of events make sense to you?
It does to a degree, but I don't think that was the precipitating factor or the major event. I think that correspondingly, at the same time this is all occurring, U.S. strategic petroleum reserves have reached their lowest point ever. The Iranians up until they had shut the Strait of Hormuz again for 4 days. I think maybe Donald Trump put pen to paper in this big announcement of how the United States has gotten 110 million barrels of oil out of the Straits of Hormuz over the last 2 months. I think someone said, hey, boss, but the difference was about 2 billion barrels, right? So this 110 million barrels really, I think the pressures of the energy crisis are stark. And again, this cliff that we have in July when worldwide oil inventories, just are almost depleted, and that cushion, that buffer that has kept oil, not really ever going above $110 a barrel. That's, I think, what the precipitating thing here was, Judge. I find it interesting that the American administration's justification for launching this war was to defend Israel from an imminent Iranian attack. And now they are saying the justification for ending the war is to defend Israel from an imminent Iranian attack. I think that's interesting, but I think there are other factors here that mattered more that haven't been discussed, as opposed to the story we hear about hundreds of Iranian missiles are going to be shot. And if that story was true, just to end it on this point, if that story was true, that completely undermines everything the administration has been saying about, one, the soundness of American and Israeli missile defense systems, and two, the other side, the robustness of Iranian missile and drone systems. I mean, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, they all keep saying the Iranians are almost out of missiles and drones. Well, and we have no shortage on our side. Our stockpiles are full, they keep saying. Well, if that was the case, why were you concerned about the Iranians attacking Israel?
Good point. Very good point. But what will Netanyahu do to wreck this? I mean, he's in a desperate situation domestically, is he not? The headline of today's Washington Post, I discarded it. I think the cleaning people came already, but the headline of the Washington Post said, Netanyahu's being attacked by foes and friends at home, and viciously attacked.
I've seen Israeli commentators, Judge, say they've never seen Israel so unified before than in this opposition to a ceasefire deal, in opposition to peace, into ending the war or the occupation of Lebanon, particularly. So what will Netanyahu do? I don't think he will push it too hard, in a sense. I think we may see some bombings in and around Beirut, but I don't think we're going to see anything like the carpet bombings that we saw in September of 2024. But I think they'll maintain their occupation. They'll keep it at what we could describe as a low intensity. I mean, it's low intensity maybe to us observing it, but if it's your village that's being burned to the ground by the Israelis, it's certainly not low intensity. But I think you'll see a recalcitrant, resistant Israel, again, not pushing it, not doing anything that's going to catch headlines, but committed to the daily grind of occupation, of trying to advance northward in Lebanon, and trying to split or walk that line of not doing enough to prompt a response.
That brilliant senior thinker who lives near you in North Carolina, who comes on the show every Monday and every Friday, you know what he thinks Netanyahu's up to?
Nothing good.
A false flag. Some attack on Americans' assets to make it look like it's the Iranians.
I think that's very possible. We saw the machine get put into motion here already in the U.S., Judge. Yesterday, Axios is reporting that John Ratcliffe, the American director of Central Intelligence, is rushing to the White House with intelligence that proves that the Iranians can't be trusted, that the Iranians have no intention of honoring this deal. Where does everyone think he got that intelligence from? Right?
Right. Well, from his buddy David Maria, the head of Mossad.
Right. Yeah. And the same thing. And so I think you're going to see this initiation. I don't know if we'll see a false flag, but we will definitely see the initiation of the Israeli lobby. Certainly they're going to go after Trump candidates running for election who support Trump's agenda, who support the deal. they're going to be attacked by the Israel lobby. And the Israel lobby is going to put money into pro-Israel Democrats. And you're already seeing this shift. Axios laid this out pretty well, I thought, yesterday, seeing this shift for the split for 2028. You're going to have Marco Rubio running on a pro-Israel, Zionist-backed, Israel lobby-backed platform. And you're going to have J.D. Vance running on an American First platform defending Donald Trump's legacy. And I think that's the split you're going to see in the Republican Party going into 2028. I think maybe Marco Rubio leaves the administration early to pursue this, right? To just demonstrate how upset he is over this betrayal of our greatest ally, Israel, ever. I have no idea how Mike Huckabee still has his job as ambassador. He's running his mouth nonstop about this in a way that is just brutally insubordinate. I can't imagine any not just American ambassador, any ambassador in history has been allowed to get away with what Huckabee is saying.
What has Huckabee been saying?
Huckabee's been just essentially showing his loyalties to Israel. He had a comment today when he had something on Twitter today where he spoke to this idea that Lebanon will not be a part of the deal. But the way he phrases it shows that his loyalties are not to the president. It shows that his loyalties are not to this government's policies, but to Israel's interests. So clearly, you're seeing this split emerging. And I think, there's a lot of speculation about Donald Trump maybe cutting support to Israel. And, the thing that was remarkable, Judge, I think maybe we touched on it a bit, in other places people have touched on it, but most folks just kind of moved over it. But a week or two ago, Donald Trump did say in one of his Truth Social messages that either the Israelis get on board or he's going to cut them off, right? They'll find themselves fighting alone, to paraphrase him.
Well, if he literally cuts them off.
Well, just for the fact
Johnson
that he even
said that they have no refueling planes, so their jets won't be able to fly from Israel to Iran.
Right. They have serious deficiencies in terms of how long they could carry out their various occupations. They're already overextended with American support. So the threat of just that one thing, holding back fuel for their planes or spare parts for their F-35s and their F-15s and F-16s, putting a moratorium, pausing the $3.3 billion the United States just gives Israel every year as a part of Obama's Memorandum of Understanding with Israel. The big thing I'd like to see them stop, and this is what would really give the Israelis pause, I think, is for President Trump to revoke the debt guarantees that the United States has for Israel. Since the 1980s, essentially, the United States Congress has continually provided a debt guarantee. Meaning that the United States backs Israeli bonds. And the total amount, if you read about this, the total amount's not that great, but the importance is the idea that the Americans have put forward already that they will guarantee Israel's debt. So the Israelis, of course, feel that this emboldens them to do whatever. If they get into something where their entire economy crashes and they need 20, 30, $50 billion to be bailed out, the Americans will do it because, hey, they already provide us a debt guarantee here. Why wouldn't they come to the rescue with a lifeline like they did for, say, Ukraine? Right. So that's what I would like to see Donald Trump pull is, this debt guarantee for the Israelis to let them know, hey, it's just not the fuel for the planes or the bombs for your planes or the spare parts for your planes or whatever, but it's this underlying guarantee the United States has to be a lifeline for Israel, come what may. That's in jeopardy. And I think you have in Donald Trump, Judge, however slim the possibility is that he would break with Israel, and none of his predecessors would have ever, you can't consider any of them ever breaking with Israel, right? That's what I was saying about his Truth Social message. You can't imagine ever Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush ever saying anything like that. Even when Joe Biden paused that one weapon shipment, they wrapped that all around in legalese. That made that sound out like they're just making sure all the T's were being crossed and I's were being dotted. And at the end of every paragraph, the Biden administration was saying, we are committed to our ironclad relationship with Israel. So the idea that Donald Trump would have the chutzpah to say, hey, I'll cut you off, again, how slim the possibility might be. But again, this is Donald Trump's legacy. he has no allegiance to anything other than his own self-interest. So if he has decided in his mind that this is his legacy, I mean, every other True Social message, he's going on about how I'm the first president in 47 years to stand up to the mullahs, to stand up to the Ayatollah. Ronald Reagan wouldn't even do that. So if this is what he's decided his legacy is going to be wrapped around, then any allegiance, no matter how much money Miriam Adelsing gave him for his election campaigns, that's not going to matter. And he's not running for re-election again. He has no allegiance. He doesn't have any loyalty to the Republican Party. So however slim the possibility here is, there is a possibility that you could see Trump act quite forcefully with the Israelis, and maybe that's what the Iranians are betting on. I think if the Israelis, Judge, were to bomb Beirut, you might see a limited response from the Iranians militarily, but more importantly, I think the Iranians would close off the Straits of Hormuz again. And that then would anger Trump, because that would show his deal's not working. Donald Trump's able to spin this MOU as a victory. And so as long as the Iranians do their part, as long as the Iranians allow the ships to go through, as long as, they're promising to some point, give us a nuclear dust or whatever, and that's a promise for the future, Donald Trump can spin this as a victory. And that's what's most important to him.
Trump and Vance have been saying in different forums, Vance is all over the place. He's all over New York City today because he's selling a book.
Oh,
the president is outside of Paris with the G7, both saying the United States is not giving any American money to Iran. So right. Misleading. The money is not American. The money is Iranian money in foreign banks that are terrified of U.S. sanctions. Period. End of the story.
Right.
All the U.S. Treasury has to do is lift the sanctions selectively in a few of those banks, and a couple of tens of billions of Iranian money goes back to Iran. Same thing Obama did. It wasn't U.S. money that he gave.
And we're talking about a lot more money here than what was provided through the JCPOA as being returned to the Iranians. Right. Estimates are that possibly there are as much as $100 billion or maybe more in frozen assets around the world held by the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Koreans, the Chinese, all these people that the Iranians, if people aren't sure what these frozen assets are composed of, some of it goes back all the way to 1979. When the American government froze Iranian assets in response to the Iranian Revolution. But a lot of these assets are the product of commerce between Iran and a third country, wherein the Iranians sold something to this sole country, sold oil to the Koreans or whoever, and then the American government doesn't allow the Koreans to pay the Iranians back for the product they provided. So this is outright theft. And good time to remind people, as always, that American sanctions are illegal under international law. They are what are called unilateral coercive measures, and they are a violation of international law. So there's no standing, there's no foundation at all for what the Americans have been doing. And that's why to call it theft is, quite accurate. But yeah, now the semantics, Judge, of how do you then sell it? And, this is why this war is so incredibly stupid. It's not just the fact that it was going to be counterproductive. It was going to result in a catastrophe. It could never be won. But also, too, the answer was always here. And the answer that they're arriving at was the answer they could have had back on February 28th, that they could have had on February 27th, that they could have had this time last year, at any time in the last however many years. But they chose not to do it. They wanted military victory. And this is what's got them, and the catastrophe for the American empire here, and this is why, again, I think maybe Donald Trump may do something that surprises us by somehow amending the United States' relationship with Israel. Again, I think it's very unlikely, but there's a possibility.
Let me interrupt you for a minute because we have a fascinating new clip on this, on Hezbollah, from Donald Trump. I'll warn Benjamin Netanyahu if he's watching. I doubt he's watching. He's not going to be happy with this. Chris?
I'll tell you what, Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long and too many people are being killed. And you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody. because there are a lot of people in those apartment houses, and they're not all Hezbollah, that I can tell you. And I suggested to Israel to let Syria take care of Hezbollah. Because to be honest with you, I think they do a better job of doing it. I didn't like where 2 hours before we're signing the agreement that there was an attack in Lebanon, in Beirut. It wasn't like in the southern side, and it was in Beirut. I did not like that. I let them know that. I didn't like it, not at all.
What we were talking about earlier. I don't know if it motivated him or not, but he's obviously aware of it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and the solution, we'll let the Syrians take care of it. That's what the 1980s looked like, for large parts, but I think that may be a shift there. And maybe that's something that's been broached by the Qataris and the Saudis to Donald Trump, is like, look, here's how it could work. We can pull the Israelis out and we can send Assad and his gang of Al-Qaeda terrorists into Lebanon. So, I mean, it might work well for the messaging. It might look good optically, but certainly for the Lebanese people, you're trading one band of invading terrorist thugs for another band of invading terrorist thugs. But certainly this idea of Donald Trump wanting to reset American relationships, not being afraid to upturn or overturn traditional legacy alliances and relationships. If he feels that there's not a return on investment, if he feels that the Americans aren't getting their fair share out of this, and you wonder in terms of his the information he's getting, is he still watching his friends on Fox News, right? Is he still watching Hugh Hewitt, Mark Levin, Jack Keane, or has he turned those people off and maybe he's listening to somebody different? I did find it very interesting too, Judge, that the Axios report said that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff were supportive of the deal. Now, that's something I find surprising. I think everyone finds surprising because...
Well, they're Zionists. Second, they support the deal.
Exactly. So, but now it comes back to this idea that this deal, this MOU, this is Donald Trump's legacy. And as loyal as in the pocket of Israel that Kushner and Witkoff are, they still are Donald Trump's son-in-law and business acquaintance. And at the end of the day, they may want what Donald Trump wants most for them, as well.
Good point.
So, yeah, I mean, so maybe that's what we're seeing here. Of course, there's been no mention whatsoever of Gaza. The genocide continues there. The Israelis murder at will, sometimes 5 a day, sometimes 15 a day. The Israelis are now looking to control 70% of the Strip. The Board of Peace is nothing more than the corrupt racket that we all knew it was going to be. And so the Palestinians continue to suffer, and the West Bank annexation continues moving forward.
Well, how can you call the Board of Peace corrupt? I mean, aren't they paying Tony Blair $1 million a year to be the chair?
I didn't. I didn't know that, Judge. So now it's like even worse.
Right.
I didn't even know that. So now my estimation of it is even worse than it was before. Oh, good God. But yeah, I mean, and that's something interesting too, I think, for people to understand when you see the Iranians and how they are involved in how they are involving themselves. And what a lot of people in the commentary over the last couple of weeks have said is like, wow, look at the Iranians. They realize that they have the leverage to extend and cover Lebanon, that it's just not themselves that they're establishing deterrence for, not just establishing their own sovereignty, but they've got enough political, economic, and military leverage that they can extend that to Lebanon. And we've seen them do that. And that looks like it's going to work out that way. How the heck the American White House is going to control the Israelis or take care of the Israelis, what they're going to do about it, we'll have to see. But, the Iranians also know that their leverage doesn't extend as far as Palestine. And so in all of this, we still, are aware of the genocide, the occupation, the apartheid that the Palestinians are enduring, and how, regardless of what happens with MOU, unless there's something that's going to surprise all of us, the suffering of the Palestinians continues. So at least the Israelis get to keep that then. And maybe that's part of the bargain being made here is that, look, okay, knock it back a bit in Lebanon. You can continue doing what you want to do in Palestine, but knock it back a bit in Lebanon. So maybe that's a trade-off. But as you were saying, Judge, how does Netanyahu then sell that to the entire country? I mean, you just had it was either Yair Lapid or Naftali Bennett. One of them just said that essentially the ceasefire ends the day I become prime minister. Right. I mean, so you have the entire political opposition opposed to this. His governing coalition is going to fall apart if he agrees to anything like this. So, you know, what's going to be the deal to make Netanyahu at least not totally obstruct it? And that's really hard to see. So, I mean, we're going to see Israeli obstruction. We're going to see them continue the occupation, and we're going to see the Israel lobby in the United States really kick into high gear.
Wow. All right. Got to go, Matt. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great analysis as always. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Judge.
Sure. All the best. Coming up, if you're watching us live in 34 minutes at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski, and at 4 o'clock from Paris. I wonder if he got close to the president. I doubt it. Pepe Escobar, Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.